What up, there, y'all? It's your boy Shane G. We are back again with another episode of Politics as Usual, right here on the Ethos Media Network. And definitely watch the last episode so that way all of this episode makes sense to you. But just for real quick review, we're talking about Ukraine, we're talking about Russia, we're talking about the Azov Battalion specifically, and we're talking about how in 2014, when Obama was president and he blocked, or the Democrats, I should say, blocked military aid going to Ukraine because the Azov Battalion, who are neo Nazis, became an official part of the Ukraine military. And we did not want to support neo Nazism or white supremacy. So we voted to not give them aid. Okay. This is also still in their conflict with Russia, mind you, because this has been going on for a while. This isn't just a new thing. So definitely make sure you review all of that. But what we're specifically talking about as well is why the narrative has changed so much when it comes to this. Um, and a few things that I pointed out in the last episode. One reason for that was the whole time Donald Trump was president and they tied him to Vladimir Putin and tried to pretend like, Putin was controlling Donald Trump. What that did was for everyone in America who hated Trump, which was a lot of people, it made them also sort of automatically hate Russia. So now that Ukraine and Russia are at conflict with each other and they're at war, that automatically puts a certain segment of the United States population on the Ukraine side because we've been trained for the last 4 years. And, for older people, they were trained back during the Cold War days to hate Russia. Think of them as the Soviet Union, the Reds, you know what I mean? All that type of stuff. Look up the Red Scare if you don't know what I mean. Um, but what I also was talking about was how a lot of Democrats who traditionally, again, left wing voters, left wing people, Democrats, things of that nature, were supposed to be anti war, were supposed to be pro worker, things like that, right? Well, there was certain articles that were written, certain quotes that were taken by people back in those days stating that we would never support that, why they're fervently against it, all that type of stuff. And then you fast forward to today and they're saying the exact opposite. One example of that is Khanna, who's a Democrat out of California. Let me just review really quickly with you guys what he said back in 2014, 2015, 2016, and then what he's saying today. A little notice provision in the 2,232-page government spending bill passed last week bans U.S. arms from going to a controversial ultranationalist militia in Ukraine that has openly accepted neo-Nazis into its ranks. House passed spending bills for the past 3 years have included a ban on U.S. aid to Ukraine from going to the Azov Battalion, but the provision was stripped out before the final passage each year. This year, though, the $1.3 trillion omnibus spending bill signed into law last week stipulates that none of the funds made available by this act may be used to provide arms, training, or other assistance to the Azov Battalion. White supremacy and neo Nazism are unacceptable and have no place in our world. Representative Khanna, Democrat from California, an outspoken critic of providing lethal aid to Ukraine, said in a statement to The Hill on Tuesday. I'm very pleased that the recently passed omnibus prevents the U.S. from providing arms and training assistance to the neo Nazi Azov Battalion fighting in Ukraine. So he was saying then, what's he saying now? This is what he's saying now. Congressman Khanna prioritizing military aid for Ukraine. Santa Clara, California. Congressman Khanna assured Ukraine's consul general based in San Francisco that he's working with colleagues on the House Armed Services Committee to prioritize sending weapons and military aircraft to Ukraine. We have to get more weapons, in my view, into the hands of Ukrainians, Khanna said at a Santa Clara office on Monday. So, my question to you guys at the end of the last episode was, what would make him change his mind? Do you realistically think that if he's so against white supremacy and neo-Nazism and all of this stuff, like he said, does he really think that Ukraine got rid of the whole Azov battalion between 2014, 2015, and 2022? Is that what he's suggesting? And that's why it's okay to give them money now? Or is he saying that because Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is Jewish, there can't be neo Nazis in the military? Is that what he's suggesting? Because again, this is what I said last week. That's like saying because Barack Obama was president that now there's no more racism. We know that's not true. So what are we saying? I have a theory on maybe why he changed his mind. If you go back a few episodes, I was speaking about how when you really deep dive and you find out where a lot of these people's money comes from, you'll find out why they vote the way they vote and why they say the things that they say and why they change their positions on certain things. So let's get into that a little bit. Why maybe would Ro Khanna change his mind on wanting to flood Ukraine with weapons and money? Why would he change his mind on that? Months after divesting, this is on Sludge, by the way. Months after divesting, Ro Khanna's spouse keeps trading fossil fuel and defense stocks. Khanna's most recent financial transaction filings show January trades in Phillips 66, General Dynamics, and more. This is coming to us from Donald Shaw, and it reads, following reports from Sludge on the members of Congress who own stocks in defense contractors and fossil fuel companies, Congressional Progressive Caucus member Representative Ro Khanna, Democrat from California, announced that his spouse, Ritu Khanna, would divest from assets in those industries. So he said it after Sludge, where I'm reading this article from, after Sludge came out and said, yo, all these people in Congress own stocks in these different industries that they stand to profit from that they're also regulating and making laws on. Like, this is problematic. And so Ro Khanna said, you know what? That's true. That's right. That is problematic. So we're actually going to take our money out of all of those companies because I agree with you, Sludge. Let's keep going. Khanna announced the defense stock divestments in December of 2020 and the fossil fuel stock divestments in October of 2021, making him one of the only members of Congress whose household had committed to steering clear of industries that they find problematic. So he announced after the fact. Not only did he say, hey, I'm going to do this, he said, I've done this. In December, we took our money out of this. And then in October the next year, we took our money out of this. We're good now. We're clean, right? According to Khanna's most recent transaction report covering the month of January, that would be January of 2022, so earlier this year, Ritu bought and sold up to $100,000 worth of stock in fossil fuel company 66 in Coterra, formerly known as Cabot Oil and Gas. She bought up to $50,000 of stock in Atmos Energy, one of the largest natural gas distributors in the country, and the same amount in energy company XL Energy, which currently operates 13 coal power plants, according to its most recent annual report. Now, the reason why that's problematic is because Ro Khanna pretends to be a big climate change guy. He's like, yo, we got to save the planet. You know what I mean? We have to invest in green energy and all this type of stuff. Well, if that's the case, why are you investing in so many coal companies? Why do you guys have money? And it says it's his wife, but, legally speaking, unless they're separated or going through a divorce or something like that, which they're not, you know what I mean? Like, that means that's his money too. So let's continue. Also in January, Ritu Khanna purchased up to $50,000 worth of shares in Department of Defense contractor General Dynamics and reported making a partial sale of her shares in the company later in the month. Ro Khanna and his wife are buying defense stock. Do y'all understand what that means? Y'all get that, right? They're buying defense stock. We're flooding Ukraine with money and with weapons. Whose stock do you think is going up as a result of that? Probably defense stock, right? Probably defense stock. That's aka war stock. That's also what that means. Um Defense contractors. So basically what they're saying is the government, the Department of Defense, they provide certain companies with contracts to, provide them with what they need militarily, essentially. That's what that means. And so if we know that there's going to be a war happening that we're probably going to get involved in, that means that those defense contractors are now going to have to produce a bunch of weapons and sell a bunch of weapons. So again, when that happens, whose stock goes up? That defense contracting company. So why would a member of Congress be purchasing stock in a thing that hasn't happened yet, but we see is about to happen? I feel like maybe that's why his vote could be influenced. What do you think? We've seen examples of this before where Hillary Clinton was against, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was with the banks. She believed in breaking up the big banks at one point. And then she went on a bunch of speaking tours and she went on a bunch of you know what I mean? She received a lot of money from big banks, a lot of donations to the Clinton Foundation, things of that nature. And then when she became once again a senator, all of a sudden she was against that idea. She didn't want to regulate the banks. Why is that? Is it the same reason that we see Khanna has changed his stance on providing military aid to Ukraine? Because again, it explicitly said right here, right here, Representative Ro Khanna, Democrat of California, an outspoken critic of providing lethal aid to Ukraine, for the reason that they accepted the Azov battalion into their official ranks. They're still in the official ranks. But what you'll notice now is that anytime you look up the Azov battalion, they pretend that it's a conspiracy theory that they're Nazis and that it's just a Vladimir Putin talking point. But our own US government acknowledged it, as you can see in that article. So what do you think happened? Do you think that we just all of a sudden felt like, oh no, Obama was wrong? He wasn't smart enough to realize that that was all propaganda? Is that what you guys are trying to say? Let me know. You let me know what you're trying to say. But what I'm trying to say is that when somebody stands to make a lot of money based off certain events happening, and then those events happen, or when somebody's like, hey, this is wrong, and then somebody says, you know what, I agree with you, and since I'm participating in that, I'm going to stop, and then they don't, and then they just completely change their stance on something. Let me know what that is. You let me know what that is in the comments. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to present information and allow you to come to your own conclusion. Excuse me. I'm here. I've been fighting that sneeze for a while, so I'm here to provide information and let you come to your own conclusion. So I'm not going to tell you what conclusion to come to with that. All I'll say is most of the time, 2 + 2 = 4. So with that being said, I am Shane G. Thank you once again for watching. This is Politics as Usual right here on the Ethos Media Network. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe. I got plenty of other videos, you know what I mean? This is the 11th one, the 10th one, 10th or 11th, somewhere in there. But show some love to the channel and check me out next week. Peace.